their number one gripe when it comes to support staff is, I wish they would ask better diagnostic questions over the phone.
I build it up.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are into the next episode of this season of Earned Influence. With me today, like the rest of this particular season, I have Jami, Racheal, and we are getting perspective about the industry. And that industry is mechanic work. Get to be the person who asks the questions today, or specifically the question today. This question I brought up because technicians have a tendency to tell me that service advisors are the biggest problem. I want to talk about the service lane and service advisors. I want to talk about what it's really like to have service advisors in the service lane, what it's like to lead them, what it's like to not have a lane at all, but still have service advisors. I want to compare and contrast what it's like to have a lane versus not having a lane, but still having service advisors. I'd like to hear Jami's perspective as someone who doesn't have a service lane right now, but does have service advisors. So how do you moderate a shop selling service where you don't have that kind of intimate one-on-one in a service lane with the customer? It's usually either out in the yard or out back or even from afar.
Well, I think, I'm gonna have to go back with Mindy. I mean, it's really not different. I may not have a lane, but it's 70% of our business or a customer coming in still starts with a phone call. So if you're building that rapport over the phone, and when they're coming in, I may not have the lane to do it, but you're asking questions, you're finding the common ground. You're making sure that you're, finding, not just customer states needs breaks, when are you hearing this, those type of things. And, oh, it's my teenager's car. Okay. Oh, I got one of those. Trust me, I understand. It's building that rapport, but more so, Josh, to your point of technicians are very technical, right? They think technically and methodically because they're there to solve problems. On the service, up front, whether you're in the lane or at the counter, it's the emotional and it's the excitement. So I'm like Mindy. I mean, you're not going to catch me in either place for very long. I'm back and forth. I'm not just sitting there, and the cross training and having the advisor see what the technician is dealing with when they told them, hey, you need to tell them we might need to do a wheel bearing if we get in here or what not. And the advisor isn't. So I think getting them both to sweat a little bit in each other's situations and understanding each other, that's what helps build that and keeps that going.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that because that's where, again, it's almost like we've come full circle in the last 4 episodes where we're talking about communication again, where how important that communication between technician, advisor, and customer is. Being able to succinctly communicate through those three people is imperative for the success of the business. And depending on, you might have it, some will say the lane makes it easier because you get a lot more face time. Selling face-to-face is a lot easier. Some customers really don't like the confrontation and they will agree to anything in your face. And then they will absolutely bomb you on the CSI because they felt pressured when it was face-to-face. And that's part of rapport building. You have to understand, you have to look at mannerisms. I suck at it. I got the tism. I suck at it. Right? I have to struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle to learn what people's manners are. And it takes me several times of meeting someone to understand, okay, they've said the same thing 3 times now. Is that because they're repeating themselves or because they think I'm not listening? Is it something that I'm doing? I have to go through those things. That's part of being a service advisor. And sometimes you get benefit of that, of being in the service lane. And sometimes you have to really, 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 really work hard at it when all you have is the phone. But again, it still comes back to communication. Now, Racheal, to the same point, I know you don't have a service lane and you don't fix cars, you fix material handling stuff. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah. So very much like Jamie, majority of, I would say 90% of our business starts on the phone. And our advisors are fantastic. Like I agree with you, they have the hardest job in the dealership because they hold the key to the day to day. Nothing happens in our dealership without the service advisors, whether it's them dispatching, opening service calls, all that good stuff. If I'm not there, things run smoothly. If the advisors are not there, it is chaos. So we really count on them. But that being said, they're not technical. So some of our technicians, I think that's probably their number one gripe when it comes to support staff is, I wish they would ask better diagnostic questions over the phone. I wish they knew to ask this particular question, because then that would tell me maybe I need to bring a specific part, so I only make one trip. So we don't have a service lane, but the service advisor is really that first initial contact. And I think the key to building those relationships is conveying urgency. When they call, it's being upbeat and assuring them we'll have somebody there within 24 hours or whatever response time is, which is normally in a day. And then that makes them feel, okay, this person hears me. They understand that I have this piece of equipment down. I've got to get this forklift up and running, or this whatever. And then that just puts them at ease. So it's conveying that urgency. It's knowing what diagnostic questions to ask, because then your technician feels like he's going on site and he's prepared. We do have some walk-in business, or we'll have business where a customer calls and says, hey, I know this is my problem. I'm going to bring this to you, and can you fix it in your shop? When that happens, the customer comes, the advisor will walk him back to the loading dock. We'll help him unload his equipment, and he'll get to talk to the technician that's actually going to work on his piece of equipment. And then they build something for there. They feel good about it. The advisor's in the loop because they're standing right there when that conversation takes place. And typically those customers end up satisfied as long as we communicate throughout the time that their unit is in the shop.
Interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think you heard 3 very different perspectives here. And I have the luxury of having worked as a technician in all 3. I've worked on an independent. I've worked at dealership. I've worked in material handling repair. I worked fixing forklifts for a period of time. So I understand all 3 areas to a degree. My automotive technicians, I want you to listen for a second. In material handling with Racheal, the technicians are asking the advisors to ask better diagnostic questions. In automotive, as service managers and as fix directors, we don't want the service advisors asking those diagnostic questions on the phone. We want to get the customer to the shop. We want them to create urgency, to tell them we're going to take care of them, tell them to bring the car in so we can diagnose here. Because we aren't going to there. We aren't mobile technicians. We are facility, brick and mortar in place. The opposite is true when you are fixing things remotely, whether it's material handling, heavy duty. That concept really, really changes. Asking better questions. Now, the fundamental here is to take into account in all 3 circumstances, asking better questions is the primary thing that we are asking advisors to do. So as a shop foreman, as a senior leader, as a service manager, the thing that you need to be educating your advisors on the most, not just rapport, but be very specific, educate them on how to ask better questions. That is the single most important thing that an advisor needs to do. If you can ask better questions, what are the things that in your mind that's going to do? First and foremost, you're going to be building trust with the customer. First and foremost, because you're asking questions that makes you don't just want to make them, you want them to feel like you care. 2, if you get the questions that you need answered as an advisor, so the and then can communicate to the technician, they're going to fix it more quickly, more efficiently, and the first time. That saves everybody time. And most importantly, as technicians, when we save time, we make more money. And as Racheal said, which Jami can attest to and Mindy can attest to, if you only have to go to the car once, if you only have to go to the piece of equipment once, we make more money. So asking better questions. What's it like with or without a service lane? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we want to ask better questions. That's not just service advisor advice either. That, as technicians, ladies and gentlemen, asking better questions is always a good thing to learn because it makes everything that much easier. I think that's a great way to wrap up this episode, which is the final episode of this season of Earned Influence. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Ladies, thank you very, very much for giving us a little bit of time out of your day, out of your evening to share a little bit of your life, a little bit of your history, and a little bit of your career with our audience.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, as always, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.
Thank you for watching. Please share, subscribe, and tune in for the next episode.